So what in this case, the family visa that we're talking about is the partner visa or the spouse visa, and we're talking about entry clearance applications. So if you're entering for the first time, or you're sponsoring your partner to enter the UK for the first time as your spouse or your partner, or if you are currently in a different category, let's say, for example, as a student or as a skilled worker, and you're looking to switch into a spouse visa in the UK, or if you're applying for an extension because you've already entered the UK as a spouse and you're now applying for your second set of leave. Now, a couple of days ago, the dates were confirmed for the changes. So what we can see now is that the first change is from the 11th of April 2024, and what we're looking at is basically an increase to the financial requirements. So back in 2012, the government set a financial requirement for those applying to sponsor their partners or their spouses to enter the UK. And since 2012, that has been fixed at a gross salary of £18,600. But at the end of last year, it was announced that there would be a change, and this would increase to a whopping £38,700 gross salary. There was a little bit of backlash, and there's been a slight U-turn, and it looks like now the government is looking to increase up to 38,700, but it will be done in increments. So the first change will take place on the 11th of April 2024, and the jump will be from meeting a requirement of £18,600 to £29,000. So what that means essentially is if you make an application on or after 11th of April 2024, the financial requirement that you will be required to meet will be £29,000. So if you make your application before the 11th of April 2024, whether that's an entry clearance application as a spouse or whether that's switching in country, you will not need to meet the higher requirement of 29, so you can still apply with 18,600. But if you are applying after the 11th of April or on or after the 11th, then you will be required to meet the £29,000 requirement. And then the government's looking to do an increase in late 2024, and from experience, these changes normally take place in October. So you're looking at around about October time, it will jump, so the financial requirement will jump from £29,000 to £34,500. Again, that's gross salary or a gross income. And then what that means is any applications that are made on or after that specific date, which will be declared soon, the financial requirement you will be required to meet is £34,500. And then they're looking in spring 2025, which again, it appears that will be April 2025, the increase will be from the 34,500 to the 38,700. Now, as I've just explained, if you make your application before, for example, the 11th of April, you don't need to meet the new requirement. But if you've entered the UK before the 11th of April, or if you're already on a spouse visa in the UK before the 11th of April, when you apply to extend to your next set of leave or for your ILR under the same route, you will not be affected by the change. So you will continue to make your application meeting the requirement of 18,600. Likewise, once the increase takes place on the 11th of April and is increased to 29,000, if you make your application then and you enter the UK, meeting a requirement of 29,000, if you're already in the UK and already applied under this route, even if the change takes place to increase to 34,500 in October, because you've already entered or you've already made an application, you will not be required to meet the new increase, but you can continue to apply under 29,000, and likewise when the further increase occurs in spring next year. So ideally, if you meet the requirement or you're in a position to make an application, it would be recommended, if you want to, if you know that your earnings are below 29,000, for example, or you'll struggle to meet that, then you would apply using the 18,600 before the 11th of April. And a question that I normally get asked is also whether you're able to rely on both yours and your, for example, sponsors and the spouse's income when we make these applications. So for entry clearance applications, it's a heavy reliance on the sponsor. So the sponsor is required to meet the requirement in the UK. Once you've entered the UK, then it's a little bit easier. Then if both the applicant and the sponsor are working, you're able to rely on the income of both the applicant and sponsor.